The many moving parts of the state government's budgeting process are starting to fall in place.
The revenue picture looks good, not great. I think that we're seeing, for the next several years in the 4 to 5% range of revenue growth for the state.
I think we have to be very cautious. I think even though the numbers suggest that there's a surplus, I think that's not really so. And we learned a hard lesson through the downturn.
Tonight, we look at revenue projections and proposed state tax changes. It's Arizona Week.
Production of Arizona Week is made possible in parts by a grant from the Stonewall Foundation and by the members of Arizona Public Media. Thank you for your continued support. Once again, your moderator, Michael Chiha.
Before the state legislature can decide how much money to spend and on what, it must determine how much money, largely in the form of tax revenues, is available and how tax changes affect revenue. We spoke with legislators this week about their expectations. The 1-cent sales tax for education goes away in May, and business tax cuts that the legislature passed a couple of years ago kick in July. And there's more talk of tax credits for businesses in the session going on now. How's the revenue picture looking going forward with all of that going on?
I just spoke to a group this morning, and the comment that I made was that the revenue picture looks good, not great. I think that we're seeing, for the next several years in the 4 to 5% range of revenue growth for the state. Not as good as our 7 to 8% that we had back in some of the better days, but certainly better than where we were in the recessionary area. So revenues they're improving versus other states. Some of the things that we put in motion, some of the jobs bills that we passed when we were in the throes of the recession, starting to bear fruit. CNN Money said that state of Arizona is #1 in terms of entrepreneurial startups in the last year. So I think we're starting to see some benefits of those business incentives that we put in place.
Some say it would be wise to wait to see the full benefits of those or how they roll out before suggesting new tax breaks for businesses. How do you feel about that?
I think there's some validity to that comment. Doesn't mean that we still shouldn't find some, in my opinion, some modest ways to improve things. I think that we ought to see, before we do any major proposals, in my opinion, let's see how the proposals that we have in place that are just now starting to phase in, let's see how those work out before we have any new major initiatives in terms of business building.
I'm very concerned, again, as I mentioned before, about the revenue structure being a 20th century model, and now we're in the 21st century. It's not quite working. Once we bring in the online sales tax, because that's the way many of us shop today, it will increase the revenues we get there by $700 million a year. It will also get rid of a disadvantage that our current brick and mortar retailers here in Arizona face, where the online retailers can undercut them by almost 10% because they don't pay a sales tax currently. There will be more activity into brick and mortar because people will no longer have that advantage to go online. That will help bring in revenues as well. And particularly when that sales tax expires for schools, I'm very concerned that they will be hurting dramatically. And even if we increase our funding for schools at $200 million, even $300 million this year, that's still a $700 or $800 million effective cut with that sales tax going out of place. So we've got to get emphasis back on funding our schools as the key economic development tool that we have in our toolbox.
The sales tax go away, which I think is a positive motivation for Arizona, and it's you can't forecast an increase in your sales tax. It's a static number, static accounting number, so you'd have to wait for the reality to show up. But I think that's going to improve Arizona's position as well, and I think that's going to accelerate some dollars. But also, as we're moving forward, and these tax cuts are already generating these jobs. So when I spoke of the 300,000, we've got 100,000 now back. Well, we're forecasting it'll be another 100 by this time next year. So we're making it 2/3 of the way back here by this time next year. So that is our replacement income. Now, I can't tell you what that's going to be the following year. We have so many federal pressures on us that I think are pushing back on it.
I think we have to be very cautious. I think even though the numbers suggest that there's a surplus, I think that's not really so. And we learned a hard lesson through the downturn in that if money is coming from a one-time source, it needs to be used for one-time activities. And if it's coming from an ongoing funding source, then you are able to appropriate it into things like education, both at the elementary level and secondary and university level. I think going forward, I think we need to be very concerned about our revenues. I don't think we have an assured revenue stream to guarantee growth over time.
There are committee hearings called the Financial Advisory Committee, and they're made up of economists, I think 10 different economists from throughout the states. They believe that we will have a steady but slow increase in revenue in our state. And so we've also determined that not only with the loss of the 1-cent sales tax, but also the increased cost of Medicaid, that we're actually projecting a deficit in fiscal year 16. And so we have to be very cognizant of that when we increase spending, because there's a lot of groups that come to us and say, hey, you guys have some extra money right now. You have some carry forward money and you have rainy day funds. So why don't you, increase spending for us? We want more money. And there may be a totally legitimate reason why these, like education, for instance, that they would need more money. But we, as a legislature, we have to look at the long term. And if we're already projecting a deficit in fiscal year 16, we have to be very careful that we don't overspend and put ourselves in the same place that we did a few years ago, where we had to go back then again and cut spending. So we're trying to work it out.
There's a couple things at play. One, in terms of this immediate budget, our Joint Legislative Budget Committee has actually projected revenues to be significantly lower than the governor's budget. So that's the first hurdle we've got to have with our JLBC, the legislative side, and the governor's side come to some sort of agreement on what the revenues are actually projected to be next year, because that's the foundation of starting your entire budget process. The other thing that we've done is last year we started budgeting for a 3-year budget cycle, and what our actuarial data is showing us, or what they're telling me, is that we're going to see a slight increase in 14 because the Bush tax cuts are expiring at the federal level and so many people are taking dividends and the capital gains now. But they're actually projecting that in 15 and 16, those revenues are going to decline a bit. And so when I look at anything that we have $450 million in our reserves set aside, what we're looking at as a legislator is maybe even taking that up a bit. Any attempt to cut that, I think, would actually be very detrimental, because we are seeing revenue go down in 15 and 16 particularly.
I think in the last few years we've done a really good job in making this a low-tax, good business climate for taxes. But I'm hearing the business community say more and more that it doesn't matter how low your taxes go. If you can't hire employees because you have an education system that isn't working, if you can't get your goods to market or your employees to work because your transportation system is falling apart, the low tax climate doesn't matter.
Under Republican control for the last 20 years, the legislature has consistently cut taxes, putting Arizona in the bottom 5 in tax burden nationally. The one exception was the temporary 1-cent education sales tax, which expires in 3 months. Here are 2 legislators discussing yet another tax cut proposal, this one a credit meant to stimulate job and business growth. Please explain your proposed legislation that would add business tax credits to the state's repertoire of business incentives.
I'm glad you asked. As you are well aware, for the last several years, we've been trying to move Arizona in the right direction of competitiveness in the West. We've now gone from 9th to 4th in Western states in our tax competitiveness. We need to keep moving that bar. As you well know, at our high point, we lost about 300,000 jobs. My viewpoint has always been that we're in a race to bring those jobs back. For every 1,000 jobs, it's worth $1 million in state tax revenue. It's a very clear number for me. So if we lost 300,000, we lost $300 million. Similarly, most of those people would end up on our access programs, in our state funding programs, because they're out of work and they need additional support. That's another $300 million. So my view is that we need to keep accelerating this process, especially and defining who Arizona is versus what our neighbor to the west is. They're raising taxes and going further in the deficits. Well, we've now balanced our budget now for the last several years, and we're now removing some of the business burdens that are out there. So this year is no different from previous years coming out of the state legislature, especially in the House, where we're looking to support businesses moving into Arizona and accelerating their own businesses here. So in this particular case, we just had a bill passed last week, and there's several, but I thought I'd highlight a few. The research and development tax credit, the R&D tax credit, is huge and has been very successful for the larger companies in Arizona. So we have this plan already moving. And we also have a plan for the smaller business, which is 150 employees and under. But the problem is the ceiling has prevented a lot of these companies from able to be a part of that R&D tax credit. I believe, and so do Republicans and Democrats alike, it was almost unanimous in committee the other day, that what we need to do is we need to raise the ceiling on the research and development tax credit for the small business guy now. It's especially effective, I think, in rural Arizona. It supports our manufacturing sectors that are out there, the supply chain that we always talk about. And I think this is one more piece that helps move Arizona even further down the competitive line and help support our communities with more jobs and more companies.
There are a number of bills this session looking for more tax credits and more tax reductions. And I think it's clearly time for us to ask where those funds are going to come from, because the projections going forward don't suggest that there's extra revenue to be taken.
Should there be a larger economic strategy that those kinds of tax credits become a part of? Or is the strategy in place and this is part of it? Do you have a reckoning of that?
In my mind, if we're looking at tax credits, they need to generate growth and they need to generate revenue. And when a tax credit can be used in a way that it helps grow the economy in a way that we have better jobs and we have really positive growth for communities in an appropriate way, those are the credits that need to be considered. Problem we have here is that we don't know how those tax credits are used in many cases, and we don't know whether or not they really generate the things that are promised. So I think we have to move in the direction of more transparency so we know whether or not a tax credit produces the things that are promised on the front end. I'm becoming very cautious about tax credits because I'm afraid that if they don't generate what's promised, we'll end up without the funds we need to have a good education system.
In regard to skilled workers coming in, being drawn into the workforce through these kinds of incentives, Arizona lacks for skilled workers right now because the educational system isn't providing enough of them. Yeah. How do we get that up to speed as quickly as we can get the business incentives up to speed?
Well, that's interesting because the university presidents are already talking about a 3-year degree. I've actually proposed to the university presidents and the Board of Regents that what they consider is a non-elective degree. And I think you know what I'm talking about, especially for, while it's true that we have so many folks who can't afford college and the federal Pell Grants are very important. And you also have the very wealthy who can go to college no matter what they'll continue to move the tuition rates to. In the middle, there are many of those who are on roller skates, like my daughter, at Sonic, trying to put her nickels and dimes away. And we're trying to find a way to get these kids in and out of college quicker, better developed, and ready to go. So the 3-year degree is a proposal that's sitting on the desk of our university presidents. I support that. But I also support that non-elective degree, which is a new concept, which is if you're going to college and here's our curriculum to be a teacher, and part of that curriculum is you need 22 credits over 4 years for an elective. Guess what? We'll still issue you a degree, a non-elective degree. You can always come back and finish those electives if you want. But truly, is what the business guy I think will say is, I might take that non-elective degree person. They look pretty bright to me if they're not taking classes that don't apply to their major. So I think we're trying to get there. It's the acceleration piece on both of those issues that I'm hoping is responding to your question. And I know the community colleges are trying to develop their workforce development process along with the Arizona Commerce Authority. So I haven't quite seen that finality to that yet, but we're waiting.
You've probably heard store clerks say it when ringing up your purchases, a few pennies for the governor. They're referring, of course, to the state sales tax, which is the target of legislative reform meant to help business, but some worry that it could hurt local governmental revenues. You're the chief sponsor in the House for the sales tax reform bill.
That's
Tell
correct.
us what the bill is about and why it's needed.
Well, Arizona has the most complicated sales tax system in the entire nation. In fact, in my committee, I'm the chair of Ways and Means, and so we're going to be hearing this bill next Monday in my committee. But prior to that, I had some presentations, and businesses would show us what they did in other states. For instance, Circle K showed us what they did in Florida. They had an online system. They paid all their sales tax through the Florida Department of Revenue. One place, their computers talked to the Department of Revenue's computers, and it was done. Here in Arizona, businesses like Circle K or any other business have to fill out every month volumes of paperwork and send it out to all the different cities every single month, and it's really burdensome on cities. And so what my bill does is three basic things. One, it would change it so businesses only have to submit and pay their sales taxes to one location, the Arizona Department of Revenue. Two, it will provide a single audit. Right now, businesses can be audited by all the different cities and the state, and so we're going to simplify that and put it down to one place of audit, one audit. The other thing it does is we're going to simplify and actually eliminate this whole complex taxing system called prime contracting tax. And we're going to change it to what 46 other states already do. We're going to change it to the contractor would pay for sales tax on the materials at the point of sale.
It's needed for one primary reason, and that is that what I say, I have a history in the business world. I spent 24 years in the corporate world and had my own small business, et cetera. And one of my mantras in the business world was you need to make it easy for your customers to do business with you. The state of Arizona and our municipalities make it very difficult for our business customers who are paying us the taxes. We make it very difficult for them to do business with us. Our system today is very complicated. It's convoluted. Somebody referred to it as Byzantine. We have our businesses spending time reporting to us and figuring it out how to pay it, as opposed to spending their time trying to market their products, build better products, and build their business.
Municipalities are pushing back a little bit on this, saying that they lose some control and they may stand to lose some revenue. Are there adjustments that need to be made in the proposal?
Yes. We have said from the get-go that some of the things that we're changing, while on the whole, on the aggregate, cities and towns will be fine. Individually, some cities, some towns are going to be hurt by the initial proposal. Well, we don't want that to happen. So what we've done is say to the cities and towns, don't tell us no, come to us and give us an alternative, because I know that they agree that we need to make it easier for our customers to do business with us. They also have an incentive that they want to keep local control, and I understand those certain cities that are going to lose some funding. Come to us, give us some ideas, tell us what we can do to mitigate that, to perhaps give them a soft landing, phase in something over several years. What can we do to make it better?
I think that's a really important step forward for Arizona. We're actually one of only 4 states in the country that has not done a tax simplification and unification, which we need to do, especially now, because the federal government is about ready to pass a law enabling states to collect online sales tax. And if we don't simplify our system before then, we will be missing out on what I've heard is more than $700 million a year in uncollected online sales taxes. And that's a key step for us modernizing what was a 20th century revenue collection system and allow it to work in the 21st century. There are some concerns, particularly among small, high-growth cities that don't have a lot of established base in retail and particularly construction retail. Those cities depend a lot on construction contracting sales taxes in the location where they are done.
As with many people, I'm not totally there yet. I believe it needs work. I believe specifically, as you've probably heard many times, the prime contracting portion does need a lot of work, mainly because it does not take into account the cities who are experiencing the most growth. The reason why I believe in the bill is because I believe it's well-intentioned. At the same time, I am one of many players who have come to the table in the hopes that the prime contracting portion will be worked out in order to account for future growth in cities such as one of the ones that I represent, Avondale, who is experiencing tremendous growth, who under the current formula in this bill would lose. But it's just a matter of fact that they would stand to lose revenues.
When the governor talked about this bill, which she also is behind, last week, she said she hoped it would be revenue neutral. Will it be revenue neutral, and what would you do about it if it turns out it's not going to be?
Actually, in one of the scenarios that was put through, scenario number 2, in the transaction privilege task forces that we had over a 6-month period of time, actually the state and the cities would be ahead.
I'm convinced that given the influx of online sales taxes that will come once we do this, they will end up making more money than they are in the first place.
What are the worries about sales tax reform? Joining me to discuss it is Sylvia Amparano. She's interim finance director for the city of Tucson. Welcome.
Thank you.
So tell me, what are the city of Tucson's concerns if the sales tax becomes centralized with the state government?
The main concern the city has is the ability of the state to manage and administer the program if it is moved to the state level. Currently, the state collects on behalf of counties and the state and other non-program cities, and they collect about $466 million at the time. If it's changed, if the proposed change is enacted, it would increase the amount of sales tax collected to $1.6 billion at the state. That's over 200% of what their current capability is.
And the reason that it'll increase so much is that Tucson, Phoenix, and most of the bigger cities in the state do their own now, correct?
Correct. The non-program cities are the larger cities and, of course, collect the most sales tax in the state. And we have our own staff that are experts in auditing and making sure that there's a fair and level playing field for all businesses, large or small.
So besides the audit and the actual collection of the taxes, what other tasks are involved in maintaining the sales tax collections for the city?
Sure. The business license section we currently administer and maintain a tax revenue management system, so we have the ability to track on an individual basis. If it gets moved to the state level, we're going to lose that control to track sales tax on various levels. And also audit, sales tax audit right now, if the changes proposed, it would allow only the Department of Revenue to audit all the state businesses. And our concern is that it would be focused on only large businesses, and the majority of businesses in Tucson are locally owned businesses that would not be audited, and it may be a loss of revenue to the city.
What is the sales tax revenue for the city of Tucson? Do you know?
The local sales tax, we collect about $177 million in local sales tax. That's down from about $20 million from the high in 2008. So we have seen a slow increase in revenues in the last couple of years. It's been modest, but it is increasing.
And what portion of the budget, of the operating budget, is that? Is that 10%, 11% or so?
42%.
42%.
Right. It's 42% of the general fund.
So that's what you consider to be not necessarily in jeopardy, but out of the city's control if this bill passes the legislature.
That's correct.
What other programs are there at the state level where the state administers the tax collection and perhaps the audit and then passes the money along to the city?
The city receives $106 million of state shared revenue, and that's made up of income tax that the state collects, sales tax, and also auto lieu tax, which is the vehicle license tax that's paid at the Department of Motor Vehicle. So that is a significant amount of tax that's also part of the general fund.
Are you concerned about that money at all? Because that process apparently is working well for the city?
That wouldn't change. The state sales tax that's collected is already in place, and so there is a program or a program in place that distributes that based on population.
And what is the overall revenue and budgeting picture for the city right now? You said that revenues are growing modestly at the sales tax level. Are we seeing that with other things too, the property tax and the like?
Property tax values are actually decreasing. In general, the general fund is based on sales tax and other taxes. And so those have seen a modest increase, like I said, but the issue that we're concerned with is that expenditures are increasing at a higher pace than revenues are coming in. So we are going to have a tight budget for this year and concerns for next year.
So we're not out of the woods as far as finances go at the city level by any means?
No, sales tax hasn't rebounded at the level that we expected. It has been slow. Like I said, we're $20 million less than a few years ago, so we still have to minimize our expenses.
Do you think that the state's provisions for increasing its auditing staff would be helpful in the sales tax changes that they've proposed? We have just about a half a minute remaining.
I think it'd be beneficial for the city to maintain the control of auditing the local businesses.
Sylvia Amparano, Interim Finance Director for the City of Tucson, thank you so much for speaking with me.
You're welcome.
That's our program for Friday, February 15th, 2013. We'll continue our look at state finances next week with a legislative briefing on the upcoming budget process. For Arizona Week, I'm Michael Cheha.
Production of Arizona Week is made possible in parts by a grant from the Stonewall Foundation and by the members of Arizona Public Media. Thank you for your continued support.